Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our August Small Business Happy Hour or Social Hour online workshop. I know most of you, I think all of you, but my name is Kelsey. I'm the Director of Operations for the market and really excited to have you all here. This topic is one that I am personally really excited about and is one that was highly requested when we sent out a survey earlier in the year about topics that you all want to learn about. And it also is a theme that came up quite a bit when we did discovery for our next strategic plan. So I'm really excited to have some experts and fellow market businesses in the room who have some good experience on this topic. And just, as a market that brings in over 500,000 people a year, we have a pretty big impact on the environment in our community. And I think with that, we also have a really good opportunity to like model what really good sustainability practices look like. So, yeah, really excited to have some knowledgeable people in our community here who can share on this topic. So today you'll hear from Mary, Hurley, and Bethanie. Bethanie also works for the market, so she knows a lot about what goes on behind the scenes. So they're both from Clark County Public Works, and then also Ian from Waste Connections. And then we have Rebekah from Funky Fresh Juice and Macy from Wild and Botanicals to share a bit of the vendor perspective. Jordan will be sort of monitoring the chat, so if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to put them in there, and then we'll also have some time at the end to get off our or to turn our microphones on and ask questions. And then as a reminder, this is being recorded, so it'll be sent out to everyone afterwards, and everyone who couldn't attend can also get the information. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pass it over to our first presenters.
Okay, now you guys will watch me struggle to make sure my screen setup is good. So does that look okay? You're all seeing what you're meant to be seeing? Okay, perfect. So
Yes.
hi, my name is Bethanie Velasco. Some of you I know, I think I know Macy, Rebekah, I've also seen you, but really great to be here in this capacity to talk to you all about sustainability and what you could do at the farmers market. And I'm joined by my coworker Mary on the public works side and Ian Blackburn, who is our commercial educator with Waste Connections. So we're going to be going over a little bit about the Clark County Green Business Program today. We're going to talk about some legislation that may impact your business operations related to sustainability, waste, reuse. We'll be discussing how you can compost at the market if you aren't doing so already, some recycling information, how to properly dispose of hazardous waste and reduce the hazardous waste you may be using already, and some sustainability and reuse tips. So a little bit about the Clark County Green Business Program. We offer a variety of tools meant to assist businesses on their sustainability journey. We kind of meet you where you're at and work to meet whatever goals you might set for the year, for the next 5 years. We have a self-assessment tool where you can kind of identify areas for improvements, and then we give you help along the way. We have free resources, and we can offer technical assistance to set up a green team and establish some realistic sustainability goals for your business. We also organize quarterly networking events. The most recent one was actually held at the Slocum House. Thank you so much, Kelsey and Jordan, for the space. And we have an annual award ceremony where we recognize and celebrate businesses that are making exceptional strides in sustainability. And those are open to anybody. We also have a certification program, which the farmers market just completed. They're now in our cohort of certified green businesses, where if you choose to undergo the certification process, you get to be listed on our online directory. You can use our logo and marketing materials, and then we also promote you through our various channels, social media, newsletters, our website, things like that. And you can find out more information here. And with that, I am going to pass it over to my coworker, Mary.
Hey there, thanks, Bethany. Yeah, as Bethany mentioned, my name's Mary Hurley. I also work with Bethany on the Clark County Green Business
Great.
Program. I'm just going to be discussing a few of the items that you see on the screen right now that are mostly highly applicable to food service businesses, including parts of the plastics law that was passed in Washington State in recent years, the PFAS and food packaging law from 2018, and then the more recent organics management law that just got some updates back in 2024. And the 2021 plastics law had some different phases of implementation and different items or materials that were addressed within it. So first, we're going to talk about the single-use serviceware law. Many single-use items get just thrown into bags or handed off to customers despite them not being desired or needed by the customer. Personally, I have a drawer full of this stuff at home. I hate to throw it away, but eventually I usually end up having to. These items can be really wasteful on many levels. They often contribute to litter or they just add to landfill material. And it, of course, costs the business money. Washington State passed a law that went into effect January 1st, 2022, with the goal to reduce these unnecessary waste materials that were generated by single-use serviceware. Many items are still allowed, but they're just not allowed by default. So the poster that's over on the right-hand side of the screen from Washington Department of Ecology shows some examples of applicable items and how to comply with the law. Customers can still request, confirm, or select their own knives, forks, spoons, chopsticks, cocktail picks, splash sticks, stirrers, straws, cold cup lids, sauce, or condiment packets. And then a few other important things to note about this law is that items cannot be bundled. So think of those like fork, knife, and napkin combos that often come in a clear plastic wrapper. Those are no longer allowed. Items can still be out at those self-service stations that you see a lot in delis and restaurants. There is an online observation reporting form for non-compliance. So while education is usually the first step of outreach about these laws, fines are possible for continued non-compliance. And if you could use resources to help train your employees or inform your customers about this law, the Washington Department of Ecology does have these posters or flyers available in several different languages on their website. Okay, and then next we're going to talk about something called expanded polystyrene, or EPS for short. That's basically just a really fancy way to say foam that's made from plastic. And a ban on EPS was also part of this plastics law that we've been talking about. And lots of different items are made from EPS because it's inexpensive, lightweight, and it has insulating factors that can help keep food and beverages either hot or cold. But it doesn't ever get recycled, especially when it's soiled with food. And that's because it's expensive to recycle. And even when facilities to recycle it exist, it breaks down really easily, which makes it extremely difficult to collect. And that also makes it difficult to clean up as litter. The EPS ban was phased in, initially starting with banning packing peanuts and loose fill packaging in 2023. And then starting on June 1st, 2024, food service containers that are made from EPS were also banned. And there are some pictures of examples of these products in the graphic on the right. So it includes foam clamshells, soup containers, plates, cups, and bowls. There are a few exceptions that are allowed, including the EPS trays that are often used for raw meat and produce, as well as some other packaging used in healthcare applications. And next, I'm not going to go too much into the single-use plastic bag ban because it has been around for a while and most people are somewhat familiar with it. but there are some specifications for each bag type that you should be aware of, including the minimum recycled content requirements and thickness and color of plastic bags, and certain sizes, specifically those smaller than 882 cubic inches, which is really specific, I know, of paper bags, are allowed without the 8-cent charge. Encouraging the customer to bring their own reusable bag is always the best option, of course. It's going to save everyone money, and it, of course, reduces waste and litter too. So I won't bore you with the longer scientific name that PFAS stands for, but these are also known as forever chemicals. They're frequently used in everyday items, which leads to water and soil contamination. They are commonly found in disposable food service containers like paper boats, pizza boxes, and more. The PFAS in food packaging law became effective in Washington on February 1st, 2023, and then another phase of it in May 1st, on May 1st, 2024. So manufacturers of certain items that would commonly contain PFAS have to obtain certificates of compliance showing that they either meet the criteria of the law or have an exemption. If you're a vendor or food service business, you want to avoid purchasing any of these items unless you verify that the manufacturer has a certificate of compliance in Washington state. And then finally, the Washington Organics Management Law was originally passed as House Bill 1799 back in 2022, and it was later updated in 2024. This law aims to divert organic organic materials away from landfills through prevention, food rescue, and organics management facilities. So the goals include reducing food waste generated by 50% by 2030, reducing at least half of edible food waste by 2030, and reducing edible food waste disposed in landfills by 20% by 2025. Keeping food out of a landfill is particularly important to help reduce methane emissions that result from that method of food disposal. If you aren't familiar, methane is a potent greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming. Using our food well is also extremely important because we have many people that are in need of nutritious food.
Hello, I'm Ian Blackburn with Waste Connections. I'm the commercial education coordinator over here. So I'm just going to kind of go over composting and recycle material as to what we accept and don't accept and why it's important to compost. So first off, what you're going to see here is where the food waste cart is. It's an organics bin, and it's on the north side of the Slocum house of the building. So if you have any food waste, put it in this location over here and don't put it in the garbage. What goes in the cart? Basically, what we're looking at are the accepted items are typically going to be fruits and vegetables, breads and grains, meat and dairy, even bones accepted as well, and then flowers as well. What's not accepted are going to be paper, bamboo products like to-go boxes, napkins, silverware, grease-soiled items, items labeled as compostable. Like even compostable bags are kind of our big thing that we do accept them in essence, but when they go to Dirt Hugger, which is where our compostable, the place that make our compost, they basically end up putting it in, they open the bag open and basically just put it in the landfill or basically throw it away is what they do. So it's really important to just look at basically specifically only food material that goes in the organics bin. And then what you're going to see here, let me just go to my next slide. All right, so next we're going to see the cost factors and the microplastic issues. What you're looking at here are general items that contain labeled compostable, but still is considered in a term of greenwashing, where you're going to see a cup labeled compostable or a bag that's labeled compostable. And what's going to happen is still once they reach to their life cycle, they're still going to degrade, but they still will have microplastics in there, as well as like bamboo material same concept, we bring it to Dirt Hugger, which is over in the Dalles, and they are not going to take that bamboo material. It's going to go straight to a landfill. So purchasing these items can be more expensive. So it's just important to not use those products, if anywhere, to avoid them at all costs, because they actually don't do any good in the product itself, is what happens. And then tips and tricks with compostable. Basically, using Slim Jims to transport your material is important. Easier than to have to just haul it into like bags or whatever you have. If you have a Slim Jim, which is the little black container over there, you can put them in that. And then if it's too heavy, for instance, use a dolly to carry it to transport. Buckets are also another form that you can put them in as well to put your organic material in there, or food scraps. Some tips would be to close the lid every time to avoid rodents and pests to protect stormwater. And that's referring to like the organics bin, closing that lid and making sure it doesn't stay open, as well as on these hot days, make it really smelly and sticky. And then to avoid smells and reduce weight, empty the food scraps on a regular basis. So if you have it in your Slim Jim or your bucket with the food material, just make sure to go more frequent to drop it off into the bin so that way it doesn't get too heavy. And then educating employees on the correct material, just knowing that food scraps are what we want in the cart, to put them in that cart specifically with signage, and which we can provide you signage as well as to a guide. And the location of where the cart is for your establishments. That's really important, is letting your employees know where the cart is located and what goes in the carts is what's really important there. And then why do we compost? It's an important component of closed loop recycling. So when you look at this picture on the right-hand side, you can see that basically when you put your food scraps into a bin, it goes to our collection, which then goes to Dirt Hugger. They turn that into compost itself. You can purchase this compost locally as well through Dirt Hugger, and then you can use that to grow your own material or buy the product itself. You purchase that, use it for your establishment, goes back into food scraps. So it's a continuous loop cycle itself. So it's really important to do that, because it's not where it's going to be landfilled or go into a landfill as well. The key benefits could be saving money on the garbage service itself. You may be generating up to, let's say, from how much you generate, that could be food scraps that could be going into your garbage. You could maybe have 10 to 20% of that amount that could actually be diverted into a food waste bin, as well as a garbage service. Could look at reducing those levels of price points and actually reduce probably the cost of the service as you're actually generating in your garbage. Reducing methane emissions, as well as marketing your business as environmentally sustainable. It gives a little green tag, makes it look good, as well as basically you're preventing that. And then Waste Connections can offer your businesses with a 64-gallon food waste cart. The picture in the background is the type of cart that we provide. The costs do vary based off of your area, but if you want to get organic services or food waste services, we can provide that for you for low costs. All right. And then this is more so what goes in the recycling cart itself. So what's accepted and what isn't. The main reason for the item, as typically why it won't make it as an accepted material, is because of our machinery that we sort it through, or it doesn't have an end market for the product itself. Our common contamination is a plastic bag or to-go items itself. The material, how it works is we have what we call our star screens, which it goes up a conveyor belt, is how it works. Any rigid material like jars, jugs, metal cans, aluminum cans as well are going to make it up this sort line, and then anything that's flat material is going to go through it. So where that contamination can happen is if it's a to-go cup, it's too flimsy, so it's going to mangle our system and not make it through the sorting process. Or if you have a loose lid that's not screwed onto the milk jug or container itself, it's going to fall through and mix with all the paper and cardboard material. So what's important is knowing what you want to put in the bin itself, as well as the items that can contaminate a paper mix between putting plastics in that paper together when we send it to like Georgia Pacific to be reused as other paper, and it has that plastic component. They have to then break the bale open, remove that component, and then resend it back through the sorting system itself. When you're looking at the size of what we want, our rule is basically larger than a fist, so or a baseball itself. So if you're putting in paper material, we always say like larger than a postcard. So if it's smaller than that, would be where it goes in the garbage. Any metal lids as well. If they are open with a can opener, you can keep it still partially attached to the lid itself and just close it inside the lid. Or if you've actually detached the lid itself, just put it inside the metal can itself and then crimp the lid. And if you have multiple of these, like let's say you're opening a bunch of tomato sauce or something and you have multiple lids, just rinse it out and then put that lid inside multiple lids inside one of them and then crimp the top of it, and then that can be accepted as recycled material. And plastic bottles, tubs, jugs, and jars are what we want for the plastic material itself. But the most important thing is basically knowing that if the lid stays, if it screws on, it can stay on it. If it pops off, it stays off. So our main thing is just making sure it's there and empty, clean, and dry. So make sure that the material itself is clean itself. And then to-go items that are basically trash itself is a good way to phrase it. To-go items to go in the trash. Any material like a clamshell, a plastic cup, to-go boxes, for instance, they are really at their last life cycle to be reused because A, they could be food soiled, they could be not able to become another product itself. And that's why and the other scenario is that it can't make it through our sorting system. So these components are why they are unaccepted through waste connections, is that they just don't make it through our process, nor do they find an end market for it to be reused as well. The same thing is with like the compostable products itself, it's the same concept. So those items are just not accepted with us. So as of this point, they just would go in the trash into the landfill. And then we have material that you can get through us, through Waste Connections and through the Green Biz program, Green Business. We have recycling boxes, which you can get through your establishment, and they are like, there's one that are desk size as well as larger boxes. We have food scrap buckets, which in that image before that had the green bucket, we provide those. They're 4-gallon buckets that you can get through from us. Posters that you can hang up to give guides for your establishment. Decals, same concept. We have every single decal for each service, as well as guides for each service. All this material is free through the website, so you can request the material itself. I also can do presentations at your establishments over recycle and food waste material if you ever want a presentation for your establishment as well.
Great. Thank you, Ian. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about dangerous waste. I'm not sure what kind of dangerous or hazardous waste you guys may be interfacing with, so I just picked a few that I thought maybe could be relevant to some of the vendors here. But we do have more information available on our website for other streams you may be generated. So why do we care about dangerous waste and why do we want to dispose of it properly? It contaminates our water, our soil, and our air in ways that can be catastrophic for plants and animals and cause irreversible damage for especially aquatic life. It can cause human health issues like behavioral abnormalities, physical deformities, genetic mutations, birth defects, and even cancer. So we want to make sure that this is being handled properly, sometimes recycled, just not through your carts, so that we can protect our solid waste workers, the environment, and the public. And there's more information about business toxics and hazardous waste at the Department of Ecology website that's linked here. So some pickup or drop-off options for the items that I'm guessing you may produce. Cooking oil has 4 different vendors that you can call that'll either offer pickup or drop-off. So there's Grand Natural, Northwest Biofuel, Oregon Oils Incorporated, and Restaurant Technologies. Motor oil can be brought to Act Enviro. And also AutoZone or O'Reilly Auto Parts. They will take your motor oil for free in whatever container you have it in. If that's the original, or if you've done an oil change on something, you can put it in a secondary container. Just make sure it has a lid. If you're ever dropping off hazardous waste, we want to make sure you're transporting it properly and securely so that it doesn't spill in your car. I've got a funny story from my coworker, Mary. You had a fire extinguisher go off in a Porsche. We don't want that to happen to you, regardless of the maker and the model of the car, right? And then for batteries, you can bring those to, again, Act Enviro. Batteries Plus, you can also set up a free business account with them and recycle batteries by the pound. Clean Earth will also do pickup or drop off, and Earth Friendly will do pickup or drop off. For any fertilizers or poisons, and when I say poisons, I mean herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, all the asides that you may use in gardening. You can go to Act Enviro, Clean Earth, which is over in Washougal, or Clean Harbors to look for pickup or drop off options. And with all of these vendors, we always recommend calling ahead to confirm that they can accept the specific thing that you're trying to dispose of. With batteries, for example, some batteries are more hazardous than others. Some vendors may only accept the really dangerous ones, like lithium ions. Some may accept all of them. So just make sure you call ahead, make sure what you're wanting to bring by is actually something they can process, and then you can get a price estimate that way. And if I did not list a hazardous waste that you may generate, we'll have time for questions at the end, but we also do have a website here with various resources for other common business waste. And for the next 3 days, it'll be 2 days after we kind of close this meeting, I'm guessing. The City of Vancouver is offering free one-time pickup or drop-off of dangerous waste for any business that's within city limits. So you have to meet small quantity generator criteria to qualify for this, but I'm assuming that most of you do. You have to produce quite a lot of hazardous material to not. But again, you can find out more information on your generator status on that ecology link that was in that previous slide. This program will accept spent antifreeze, aerosol cans that have cleaners, paints, mercury-containing light bulbs, asbestos, solvents, thinners, paint cans, used oil, various batteries, shop towels, oil, greasy rags. And to get more information about whether or not you qualify or to schedule a pickup or a drop off, you can go to cityofvancouver.us/win. There is potential for this grant to be extended or renewed, but that's not been confirmed yet. So if you want to take advantage of this opportunity, we recommend you do it in the next few days. And a really easy way to avoid needing to dispose of hazardous waste, an easy swap that you can make in your business, is to change out some of your cleaning products with some green certified ones. So cleaning products can significantly affect indoor air quality, as well as our aquatic ecosystems. We recommend you utilize green certified cleaning products so that we aren't succumbing to greenwashing. A lot of companies will label themselves as green without actually going through any verification. So if a product has one of these 3 labels on it, the EPA Safer Choice, the Green Seal logo, or the Eco logo, then that is a verified green cleaning product. There's also the option to learn how to make your own green cleaners through our composter recycler program here at Clark County. So that's the most cost-effective way to make your own cleaners. It's like, I want to say under $1 for multi-purpose cleaner when you buy all the ingredients and factor it in per bottle. So if you want those recipes or information, we host workshops regularly to teach people how to do this. You can actually show up and make your own to take home at an in-person workshop. Here's the link down here, as well as a QR code. And I'm going to pass it back to Mary.
Awesome. So now we're going to talk a little bit about reuse and sustainability to kind of wrap this up. So the question is there a business case for sustainability? According to some data that was quoted in a recent Harvard Business Review, the answer is yes. To quote their article, when Gen Z and millennial customers believe a brand cares about its impact on people and the planet, they are 27% more likely to purchase it than older generations are. And forecasting experts calculate that the purchasing power of millennials and Gen Z will surpass that of boomers around the year 2030, which is really just around the corner. And now we're going to talk a little bit about reuse, which is really my favorite topic. We're going to start through looking at it through the lens of cafes and coffee shops first. So here are some statistics about to-go cups, which are not recyclable if you didn't already know that. But of course you knew it because Ian talked about it. But 4.4 billion with a B of these cups are disposed of in Washington every year. Many of them, of course, have those chasing arrows on the bottom of the cups, but that's really just an industry code. And the reality is that these almost never get accepted for recycling. And even the paper cups are also a multi-layered product that have a plastic lining inside of it. And so therefore they aren't recyclable either. This means that the simple act of reuse holds the power to keep millions of pounds of waste out of a landfill. And also, as you can see on this infographic that came from bringyourcupwa.org, reuse also greatly reduces the amount of resources that are used on the production and disposal of these disposable to-go cups. So we've established that there are lots of benefits to reuse, and those benefits helped to spark a recent statewide campaign that Clark County partnered with. In June, the Washington Department of Ecology launched the Bring Your Own Cup campaign. The website for the campaign includes infographics on reuse, a pledge form, an interactive map that consumers can use to locate cafes and restaurants that welcome consumer cups, and then tips on how to bring your own cup. There are also some resources for businesses that are interested in supporting the campaign. And benefits for business participation include the opportunity to save money on disposables by not purchasing them in the first place, and the potential for increased traffic from being listed on the map. If you're interested in getting on that map, you can contact Lauren Dyer at the Department of Ecology, and her email address is on the bottom of this slide. And then here are a few of the frequently asked questions about reusables in action. So first of all, if we're talking about food service, the question is usually, are reusables allowed or is refill allowed? The short answer is yes, but you do want to check the Washington State Retail Food Code to make sure that you're doing it appropriately and safely. And we've got that little bit.ly link to access that document down below. If you ever have any questions about that, we also work with Clark County Public Health, and we can definitely help connect you with someone there that can help give you some information about that. And then, is reuse just for cups? Absolutely not. So you can think about plates, to-go containers, and any other serviceware items. And then we also often get asked where we can learn more about having reuse in your organization or establishment. And so we've got a link to a really cool resource down here called Upstream Solutions. They have some cool case studies and information on their website about how to successfully implement reuse at your organization.
And when we practiced this earlier today, I interrupted a lot. So we actually did take more time than we have for the presentation right now. That being said, we have a lot of time for questions. So yeah, does anybody have anything for the team here? If we didn't cover it in the presentation, we might still know something about it. So we're happy to field any and all interest.
So there are two questions in the chat, Bethany. The first one is from Zach at Rainbow. They're a soap vendor at the market, and he says they use it. They're curious about some examples for sustainable packaging options. So we talked about sort of some of the things that are commonly maybe labeled as compostable or maybe not so compostable after all. And so they use a product, a compostable biofilm pouch for their bath bombs that are rated for home and commercial compost, but they're not, but maybe they're not. So the question is like, what can you tell us about truly sustainable packaging options for products?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So I guess if we start, those compostable products can be accepted by some composters, just not ours. Ours is producing a certified organic grade material, which means anything that would put microplastics or PFAS into their product is not allowed. But there are some composters that produce, I don't want to say a lower grade material, but it is not organic. It's not certified. So up north, you'll often find that they're accepting those items. As for alternatives, I have a feeling that Mary may know some other options. So I'll let her take it from here.
Well, I don't know that I have like a particular, product in mind. But I would say that usually the less packaging, the better. So, um, if customers can bring their own bags, for instance, for those bath bombs, and I'm not quite sure, specifically what the durability is like of them or what the purpose is for the packaging. So I think that depends too. Sometimes products just need packaging, and basically what I would say is if you can't really have like a truly biodegradable packaging that can be composted or that most of your customers are going to probably not compost at home, you might want to think about, looking at just any other type of alternative packaging that is going to go in the garbage, but hopefully will still have a light footprint, be lightweight, not cost a lot of money. But, ideally, you'd be able to either eliminate it or have like a reusable version of that packaging that people could return to you, just to reduce waste as much as possible. I guess that's not really a great answer because I know you just want, a packaging that is going to just kind of disappear and be zero waste. And it's just not where we're at right now. A lot of those compostable or biodegradable packaging either just don't break down, or when they do break down, it takes longer, or they just have things in them that don't really add to the compost or that can really be bad for it, that people don't want in there. So you kind of have to keep in mind, I guess, like the full life cycle of the packaging, and um, what you need it to do, and um, what your customers are probably going to be doing with it, I suppose.
Yeah. No, some um like low waste shops will sometimes have just brown bags and they'll have their bath bombs like completely unwrapped and they're bagged individually in paper bags, which can then be put in recycling carts and they do have a bit more life to them. But I've been there on setup mornings. I know how much you guys are hauling in and hauling out, and I can imagine wanting to keep those protected. So, yeah, compostables are tricky. Last time I checked, there's actually no regulatory standards for what a compostable item has to be. So anything can call itself compostable. That's another problem. There's no checks and balances.
So, keeping in the, and I think maybe you've already answered this question, but just want to make sure. In the theme of packaging, Heather with Melba's Vegan Bakery asked about sustainable packaging options for bakery pastry boxes. So a little bit larger than a bath bomb, um, but obviously most food service like to-go containers are, as Ian said, to go into the trash. But what have you guys seen anyone out there in Clark County that's doing innovative things around food packaging, especially things like bakery items who may not require like a waterproof packaging like you would if you had to serve like a wet or a hot prepared food?
Yeah, I would just say that it's hard to classify in the fact that like we accept pizza boxes as long as they're not food soiled itself. So like a type of replacement cardboarding, like a thicker cardboard packaging would be a supplement for that. And same idea, as long as it's larger than a postcard, we'll accept it as a recyclable material. The only thing is basically the food soil that I would say that would be the downshot to that.
Got
Recommend, 'cause there are some thinner buildable pastry single pastry like cookie boxes you could buy that don't have the plastic film vents, although those are
Mhm.
also really easy to remove. Um, if you use those, putting like a layer of like tissue or parchment paper at the bottom where the pastry is going to sit, a lot of pizza companies are actually doing that now, putting those layers underneath the pizza itself so that the box doesn't hold as much oil and then can be recycled. That's a way to at least make it so the amount of material that has to be thrown in the garbage, that small tissue paper, it's going to have a smaller footprint if that entire box is now unsoiled and can be recycled.
Can parchment paper be recycled? No.
No, it's a mixed material. It has a waxy plastic coating on it. Yeah,
Awesome.
and that's another reason a lot of to-go containers can't be recycled. Even if they aren't food soiled, a lot of them are lined with
Mhm.
some kind of like heat protectant.
Yeah.
And that's like a plastic polymer.
Jumping into changing topics a little bit, just because I'm going to follow chronologically for when people threw things in here. Rebecca asked about on the cleaning products. What about the EWG seal? I'm not sure what that stands for, so we might need to have her chime in. But are you familiar with the
Oh,
EWG seal on cleaning
yeah,
products?
it's the Environmental Working Group.
Yeah.
We like the Environmental Working Group. We actually recommend people go and look up different products using their search directory tool because for people who are maybe unfamiliar with this website, they have an entire catalog of different materials that are being vetted for their environmental and human health risks. So that's also a good way to assess the things that you might be using in your home or at work. When I first started working in hazardous waste, I did that to my own materials and I suddenly was like, oh, I'm poisoning my whole family. Good to know.
Mhm.
So it's a good resource for that. As for the seal itself, the three that we have chosen to endorse were done so just at a larger kind of in a larger framework. So outside of my own picks, I would include them personally, but those are the ones the county recommends.
Awesome, thank you. Um, while we're on the topic of some of those things, Kelsey asked her about how would a business determine if a product or a manufacturer has PFAS compliant packaging? So sometimes maybe packaging is not as clear. What are the best ways to determine packaging? Like, yeah.
Yeah, you can always request that certificate of compliance from the manufacturer. So if you don't see it anywhere on the packaging for the product or the listing for the product or like their website, definitely just reach out to the manufacturer and request that. They should be able to provide it if they do have it.
Great, thank you. Um, so Sue over Pack High Goods asked, is there a good recycling resource for metals? She's a jeweler, such as
Mhm.
brass, copper, aluminum, things like that. What are the options available to us out there for maybe non-traditional things for recycling?
So scrap metal is awesome because you can haul so many different materials and make money doing it. So some things, Ian, and I were actually just talking about jewelry, Ian and I before this presentation. Some
Mhm.
things we don't want in a curbside recycling bin would include like wires that are being used in jewelry because they get tangled in that star stream system that Ian was explaining. So we would recommend the recycling A to Z tool is typically for households. It is not recommended for commercial sites, but scrap metal is actually an exception for that because that is a paid disposal service. So if you use the recycling A to Z.com web tool and look up scrap metal, you can find all of the various places in Clark County that will accept that and give you a little bit of change for what you're bringing in. That would be my recommendation. Ian and Mary, do you have additional notes?
I was going to say the same thing. A scrap metaler is going to be probably your best resource for. I know there's different things on that. These are smaller objects, and obviously, if you try and reuse them, which I'm sure you are, would be to look at a resource for a scrap metaler to take those material.
Yeah, and
Yes.
sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they probably, to Ian's point, they may have weight limits.
Mhm.
I need to hit a certain volume or something to make it worth their time.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. Like our end is like we don't want anything more than like 25 pounds for metal. But when we're looking at smaller amounts, like that's going to be the hard thing is that it's not going to fit in a recycle bin, like because it's just going to slip through and go with the paper mix. So the best I would really, yeah, try and hold on as much that you can and then put it all in one amount to bring to a scrapper would be the best way to put it. So
Yeah, you want to make the trip worth your while. And sustainability is reducing waste driven whenever you can. So if you're dropping off hazardous waste, scrap metal, things like that, try to be efficient, you know? So with metals, I'd say collect scrap metal as much as you can, get a good volume, and then do one big drop off.
Would it be useful if I put the recycling A to Z in the chat, do you think?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. There, I
So
mean,
that's
yeah, and can you go, is this 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 QR code, does this give us access just like a landing page for a lot of these resources?
this is the workplace recycling resources
Okay,
request
gotcha.
form. So this is like the compost buckets, stickers, recycling boxes, things like that. But Mary can also, sorry, I'm volunteering you, Mary. Can you put a link to the Green Business website in the chat as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead, Mary.
oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and just to clarify that recycling A to Z
Mhm.
resource that I put in the chat, that is a great place to find different vendors for lots of different types of items to recycle, how to dispose of them properly, and that kind of a thing. The only thing that you do have to make sure that you're aware of when you're using recycling A to Z is that it is designed for residential use. So when it comes to like those dangerous items or hazardous items that Bethany was talking about earlier, those are not accepted from businesses at transfer station hazardous waste areas. It's just for households there. So that's one area where you might see information that's different for businesses. But like for, like you're talking about scrap metal recycling, it's going to list, a list of all the different metal recycling places here and where they can be dropped off. And it's the same for businesses pretty much as it is for residential.
Awesome. Thank you.
And
It's
we know it's a complex system, so you can always email us with questions.
yeah, and there's an app, it's called Recycle Right. It's the same directory tool. I keep it on my phone all the time. So it's a great app. So definitely recommend it.
What's the name of that again, Ian?
Recycle Right. It's got a picture of our blue recycle cart and it has the directory in there. As well as if you have like residential services, it'll give you a calendar of when your pickup days are as well. But it's the same source and you could just type in the item in there and it will tell you where to bring it.
Awesome. Yeah, it does sound, I mean, there's so many disparate resources out there. It sounds like this Clark Green Biz and that app are a good first place to land to start your navigation. And then I also recommend to all of our vendors that you come to the information booth when Bethany's working and just ask her lots and lots of really specific questions. So our on-site sustainability expert.
I'm there every Sunday. Do your worst.
I want to make sure if someone does not feel answered or wants to follow up on a question, please feel free. You can jump into the chat or ask now. Otherwise, Kelsey, I'll kick it back to you to move us forward.
Yeah, thank you. I learn something new every time I hear a presentation from you all. So thank you so much. It's just really great. And there's so many helpful resources. And when I was filling out the green business certification and going through the hazardous waste section, I learned so much. And that hazardous waste resource is really, really helpful. So highly recommend using that. Great. Well, thank you. I'm gonna move us along to our next speaker, which is Rebekah, owner of Funky Fresh Juice.
Hello, I'm Rebekah with Funky Fresh Juice. Thank you, Kelsey. I have to say I'm very inspired right now and geeking out on everything you guys just shared. I think I do a decent job, but I can see where there's opportunity as well, and I just am really excited about it. Thank you. So, a little bit about Funky Fresh Juice. I co-founded the company in 2016 with three other women, And since 2020, I've been the sole owner. And I have a team of about 5 right now that help me make all of this run and operate. And um, we offer 100% organic and 100% organic, fresh and bottled juice, smoothies, wellness shots, and elixirs. And we do that from like a super fun and funky 70s vibe mobile truck. And we've been at the Vancouver Farmers Market for quite some time. I think 2018 was our first year, and just are so happy to be part of this community. So, really, at our core, we strive to help create a happier, healthier world, and that definitely starts with our community here in Vancouver. I actually say it starts at home, but from a business perspective, it's right here in our community where we live and work and play. Um, and so, a little bit about like sustainability and what it means to me. Um, and kind of how I look at it from my standpoint is it's like this balancing my values and the company's values with the kind of economic demand of my type of product, with also the impact it has on the environment and others. And so that is quite a dynamic, balance. And so really, I also want to add, like, just something that was touched on, I think, at the beginning is I do feel like all of us small business owners that have the opportunity to be at the Vancouver Farmers Market, like, we really set the tone and have an opportunity to positively impact our community and their perception of specifically how sustainable we are or not. And we can make it fun and we can be creative with it. And I think it's a great opportunity. And so I'd love to use that and share kind of how I've done that in my business. And again, after all the information I just learned, I'm inspired to do more. And so kind of kicking it off, I already shared we're 100% organic. That was definitely a value-based, part of my value system decision with the business. I definitely, something I share with customers is that if I won't eat it, if I don't feed it to my family, I'm not feeding it to my community. And I know not everyone has that same value exactly, but it is mine, so I get to share that. And so obviously there's benefits to our environment and being sustainable by choosing organic produce. Like, it's better, it creates more biodiverse soil, more nutrient dense soil. It lowers the carbon footprint. I'm no full expert on the environmental impact on it. I just know it's beneficial for people and the environment. So it's like a win-win in my eyes. And so how I source organic produce is something that always evolves. So I've chosen a supplier that does a weekly or a bi-weekly delivery for me, and they hold similar values where they're sourcing as local as possible, and they have full 100% organic USDA certified produce, and they carry everything I need. What I've done recently, again, I did this in the past, and this is where the logistics needs to be creative, is sourcing it from farmers right at the farmers market. So recently I've been getting all of my cucumbers from Quackenbush, which is a certified farm. They're in Ridgefield. And what's cool about it too is that I can buy a very specific amount based on my need. So whereas to get the right price from a big supplier, I'd have to buy in bulk and hope that they wouldn't go spoil before I could use them all and end up in a compost bin, which it's better than a landfill, right? So I'm working, I think the big takeaway that I want to share about that is, like, doing something small, even if you're like, it's not a big enough thing, Me just sourcing cucumbers and then getting, like, I'll get my garlic from Quackenbush, getting these small things where it's like manageable from a business standpoint. It does make a difference and it does add up. And it helps kind of get that muscle memory going of like, oh no, this does work out. Like they do have them every week. Like I am able to get them. It's actually working. And then you can kind of expand which items you can get locally like that. So with this strategy or decision, I should say, of being 100% organic, it definitely requires a strategy, right? When it comes to the business side of things. So I've certainly had to play around with cost of goods sold. So as a business owner, you know, anyone selling goods probably knows how much it costs for them to make their good or their product versus how much they're going to sell it and what that margin looks like. And, you know, then there's the many other expenses involved in a business. For food service, it's typically just what the customer's consuming is considered a cost of goods. So for me, that's my fruit and vegetables. And so I've had to, how do I say it? Okay, let me pause. So with that, there's a specific percentage that allows you to be a healthy business and still provide this product that matches your values. And so it's very important to price it appropriately and stand behind what you're offering and have confidence with that. And so you definitely have to educate your team. Something that I train all of my team on is making sure that in every customer interaction, they're explaining that value or at least saying that value, which or saying that word organic. So customers are reminded at each exchange, oh, this is what I'm buying. I'm buying the best of the best in the area. And I'm getting that with a smile and in a fun environment and it's a happy exchange. So we practice that, what that talk track would sound like, and then we make sure that that's being followed through on, and it gets really easy as soon as it becomes a habit. But I think all of us vendors are always trying to explain the value to our customers. So it's very important. And okay, so the second piece I wanted to share after choosing to offer 100% organic produce is composting. Pretty short and sweet on this one. We do use those 4-gallon buckets, and they are so handy because they're more manageable. We put all of our pulp, all of our food scraps, you know, the heads of carrots, you know, citrus peels. We have almond meal that comes from our almond milk that we make fresh by hand or fresh batches of by hand every shift. So anything, we have pretty much no food waste. It all goes into this bucket or these buckets. We produce about an average of like 16 gallons every time we're open, I would say. So at the end of the day, our garbage waste is quite low due to that. It was interesting hearing some of the stats shared earlier because it was like talking about the reduction in waste. But for a business like mine, I would have... I wouldn't even know what to do if I had to put that in a landfill. So I actually found that a vendor friend who uses it at home. So every Saturday he'll take however many buckets I have, and then he's composting it at home, and he's getting this amazing nutrient dense soil, and he's feeding his garden, and he's like showing me his plants growing, and just it's really cool, and it's convenient for us as well. So it's definitely mutually beneficial in that way. And then I'm able to utilize the cart at the Vancouver Farmers Market when necessary, if that's a thing, or if I have extra and he doesn't take it type thing. And then I even have like a neighbor in my neighborhood that she's like, anytime you have extra compost, give it to me. So I would encourage any businesses out there to just talk to people. And something that's helped is having even just having a sign up in our window that says, you know, free organic compost. it piques people's interest. So customers will even take it from us sometimes. And that's really handy. And it's one of those things where, you feel good doing that. So I'm happy that that service is available to us. And let me just see what else I wanted to share. I think recycling in any business is kind of the low-hanging fruit. We've got some great education on like what can be and what can't be. We certainly try to recycle everything that we can. I typically make a run to the transfer station and drop off some of the things that I can't put in like a recycling bin, and that's been helpful. And lastly, something to share is we have experimented with a reusable mason jar program at Funky Fresh Juice. And so we worked with Clark County Public Health to be able to do this. And it was easy. It was pretty easy peasy. And so we wrote out a policy, and it was approved through Clark County Public Health. Very easy to work with. And essentially, you just need to have the right policy in place. I can go over that, but I think for the sake of time, if you want to know what my policy is, you can reach out to me for sure. But it's really nice because we offer bulk juice orders. So like a 64-ounce glass mason jar, essentially the customer comes and they purchase the jar initially with the juice, the cost of the juice. And I price the jar like basically what I pay for it, maybe a tiny bit more just to help with cost and everything. But then they own that mason jar and they come back and get a juice again, and then we exchange, and then we do the sanitation process, which again, I can share details if you want. But that's kind of how it works. They initially purchase it up front, and then it eliminates any cups or plastic that would have gone out, and then they have a mason jar they can use at home for other things if they want in the meantime. In addition to that bulk order mason jar program, we at one point, and I'm getting ready to do this again, we did 16-ounce branded Funky Fresh Juice, like 16-ounce jars where it's more of like a, you're drinking it there, or you're drinking it right away, and but you're bringing it back each time and reducing the need for any plastic. And what we did is, again, the customer would purchase the jar. They've got this cute little branded jar, and they pay for the juice. And then each time they come back, they get $1 off their juice. And everyone smiles and enjoys that process. So I think that's all I have for the reusable ware to share. But yeah, I think just once a business starts kind of owning this value of being as sustainable as they can with where they're at the time, and just doing those small steps, it's definitely enough, and it makes a difference, and customers start to notice. So if anyone has any questions, I am here to answer them.
I don't have a question, but more of a comment. And you and I talked about this, but one of the things that I like first recognized when purchasing from you is, like you said, how you train your employees. And it was not a normal like interaction you often get when someone rings you up where you're like, oh, it's this amount for your 100% organic smoothie, and like you just do the whole spiel, and it just has stuck in my brain. And it's such like a simple way to share that value with your customers. And like I will just like never forget what I'm buying from you because I've heard that every time. So I think it's really, really smart.
Thank you for that feedback, because it's, we're on one side of things, and so to hear that actually sticks and you're remembering like that makes me really happy. I'm glad. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a little bit of a stickler on it, gently, like, but it's like once they get it, once your team gets the talk track and they're like, oh, I need to say please, thank you, you're welcome, I need to include organic, and I need to say after tax. Like those are the three, like you have to check those based on feedback we've received and just experience we've had, and they get it, and then it's totally streamlined.
I have a question for you, Rebecca. So I want to talk more about this reusables program. It sounds like it's been going well, but how has it been received by customers? Is at this point like more of just a values-based thing you're continuing, or do you find this is like a value? Does it actually bring value to your business?
Yeah, so I would say, probably both. The I think the one with the bulk juice is more of a value to the customer, and kind of that like, oh, I'm being sustainable. It's also staying fresher, and also, microplastics aren't leaching into my fresh organic juice. That's another beautiful thing with glass. Um, and then with the branded 16 ounce, I feel like that's mutual. So when we did that, our pricing looked a little bit different. I think that would have been like probably, oh yeah, like 5 years ago or so. I'm getting ready to do another order and we'll have to strategize price on it. But basically, if I'm pricing it right for them to purchase the glass, and have it include a drink and then be able to offer a discount when they return, to me, that's very mutual. So, yeah, I would say both.
So I have, and then I want to add on something, or not add on, but I ask a follow-up question, which is you talked about your staff a little bit, and I just want to talk about, for those of us who have employees who will be representing our brand and communicating for the customers, I think you've done a great job. Can you help us maybe understand like some important things that you've learned as you sort of empower staff to sort of communicate these values to your customers and help your customers be successful with the sustainability efforts?
Yeah, I think I think it starts with the foundation of knowing the fundamentals of your business and like what the values of the business are. Uh, so I share, sustainability and offering clean, organic, healthy options to our community. Like that's why we do what we do. What we offer doesn't exist anywhere, and we're here to provide that. And when it comes to the customer experience side, a lot of times, so I mean, many people on my team are like a younger generation, and I like to ask them, okay, tell me about your best experience at XYZ coffee shop, or tell me about, and then hearing what that interaction is like for them. And then you start to see the wheels turn about what makes them feel warm and want to come back to a place other than just the product. So it's instilling like, not only do I want to have the best quality product out there, I want to have the best quality customer experience. So it's setting the standard as high as I can keep it, from the gate with each team member. But really asking them when it comes to customer experience, why do you go back to this place, and letting them think of examples of places they like to frequent. And in addition, what do those places offer? Like, is it just for the product, or is it because of the like the sustainability or the social, like the social representation of the company?
Awesome, thank you. Heather, I see Heather from Melba's had commented on just her commercial kitchen that she leases time in doing composting, which is great. And then also interested in maybe for her bakery doing some branded containers. To anyone on the call, but I mean, I'm thinking of you specifically, Rebecca, but maybe some of our folks joining as well. Are there manufacturers out there? Are there good resources? I've not ever purchased commercial grade like containers for like a business. So if where would I go to find do you have any helpful hints on the first place to go to find like a good reusable container or a good manufacturer who maybe this is their business of doing branded commercial containers for to go food?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I can't think. I know the gal's name, Toria, but I can't think of her company. I could definitely share some resources for branded reusable, and it's making me think too. Like, yeah, customers love this option, and so I think a lot of them just don't know that there are some businesses out there that are offering this option. So yeah, I think that's really exciting that that you're looking to do that, Heather.
Well, my recommendation to you, Heather, then, and you can feel free to jump on and chat too, but go find Rebekah at the market. It's very, very hard to miss her truck. And you guys can talk about that, and then talk to us. We have a really close connection with a health with Clark County Public Health. Specifically, Dave Peterson is sort of our liaison. He's been a big advocate to our small businesses, and we have a really good working relationship with him. And so if there comes a point where you need to put together a bit of a plan, we can really help spearhead that with him and move you through the process. So different resources there.
Thank you. Yeah, I have definitely had Rebekah's products before. There aren't a lot of vegan or plant-based options at the market. So when she's there, that's usually my first place to go. And then also, I've worked with Dave Peterson. I just added my Clark County Public Health permit so I can cold hold and reheat items for the fall, including pumpkin and root vegetables and legumes. And he's been really helpful. So I could reach out to him and get that policy started for the reusable containers.
Wonderful. Any other questions before I kick it back to Kelsey? Or anything I'm missing?
No, thanks, Rebekah.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to pass it off to our last speaker, Macy from Wildland Botanicals, and I'm really excited to have her here. Macy joined the market fairly recently, but has a really, really cool story and also has a non-food product. So I'll pass it to Macy, and Macy can share a little bit more about her experience with sustainability in her business. And I'm going to share the image she sent me. Hopefully you can all see this.
Amazing. Thank you, Kelsey.
Does that look okay?
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Cool. Hi, I'm Macy. I'm also feeling very inspired. Thank you, Rebekah. That was great. I feel like I've already learned a lot, and I have more questions for Bethanie at the market about composting because, like, just in my personal life, I've been going through a lot of food scraps, and normally I would just compost in my backyard, but recently it's just been like overfilling, and so I'm happy to hear that there is some options for me. So anyways, I own Wildland Botanicals. I make and sell herbal skincare and hair care products, things like lotions and oils, medicinal salve, lip balm, face masks, shampoo and conditioner, etc. And so what I do is I either forage or grow a variety of different native plants and other herbs, and then I take that plant material and build my recipes around those plants based on their herbal actions and how they work on our bodies. I absolutely love it. I'm super passionate about what I do. I've seen growth in my business, so that's super exciting. This is, like Kelsey said, my first year at the Vancouver Farmers Market and my third year in business overall. This market is great. I love the community. So I was really excited when they asked me to speak at this workshop because waste and sustainability are like huge pillars for my business. And I have so much to say about this topic. So I'll do my best not to like ramble too much or go on any tangents. But there's a few topics I'm hoping to touch on today. Those are packaging, which we've been talking a lot about, ingredients and ingredient sourcing, and then just building trust with your customers. So diving right in, packaging. If you are a product-based business, whether it's food or otherwise, this is definitely like the biggest and most like in-your-face way to draw in those eco-conscious customers. And since there's been such a huge push for plastic-free or low plastic options, it's important, right? And for good reason. We consume and throw away an insane amount of plastic. And, we've all seen the videos of like the rivers of plastic floating through the third world countries that we send it all off to. And it's impactful. So part of the reason why I started this business was because I was looking for skincare products that had specific ingredients. And if I found them, they were either like in single-use plastic or they were super, super expensive. So when I started the planning stages of this business, I was already factoring in the potential cost and the potential, I'll say, inconvenience of using non-plastic materials like glass, aluminum, paper, cardboard. And I think this made it easier for me because I was already planning for it, right? I started the business knowing that low waste packaging was going to be like a non-negotiable. So if you're an already established business and you're thinking about transitioning away from plastic or changing something to make it more sustainable, you might be faced with raising your prices since plastic is usually the cheapest option. So your cost of goods may have to go up, or they might go up, or you might have to get super creative and do research on what those changes might look like for you. I will say, like, my products aren't 100% plastic free, not yet. I have an oil in a glass bottle, but that has like a dropper top, so rubber and plastic at the top of that closure. And then any of my products that are like a spray bottle and little plastic spray tops. So, but everything else is pretty much glass, aluminum, cardboard. And then I print paper labels at home. And if anyone has questions about printing labels at home, I've been through so many hours and hours of trial and error and several different kinds of printers, and it can be super frustrating. I'm happy to share with you like what has worked for me and what hasn't. So I won't go on that rant, but I will say, like, it can be not feasible necessarily for every business to go 100% plastic free. Like, there's so many reasons that we use it. It's cheap, it's available, it's waterproof, oil proof, it doesn't break like glass, it's squeezable, lightweight. So from a business perspective, investing in that alternative options has its challenges. However, I receive a ton of praise and a ton of appreciation from my customers, and they are absolutely willing to pay more for the products because of it. It looks nice, the glass, the metal, and it's something that people can reuse. They're not just buying, a jar of lotion, they're buying a glass jar that they can use for trinkets or spices, or they can bring it back to me and I'll put more lotion in it for them. So that repurposability is a big selling point, like Rebekah was talking about. And I think at this market, with this demographic in our area, it's not a hard sales pitch, right? Like, there's a lot of resourceful and forward-thinking customers at this market. So they understand why a glass jar is better than a plastic jar, right? They know that. And as that demand grows, the options for us will become more readily available from bigger suppliers. And I've noticed the bigger companies like, specialty bottle, container and packaging, Traeger Braun, like, they have taken notice, and they also might have available more than what you see on their websites. I have reached out to just their customer service reps and asked for, do you have this in glass, or do you have this with a metal top? And a lot of the times they do, or they can redirect me towards someone that doesn't. And if they don't, then at least you're bringing up that demand, right? So I will say another place is Etsy. I have noticed if you're looking for something really specific, like maybe for Heather, like your bags or like a branded container, Etsy is a great place, and you can filter out their location. So you can type in paper containers or paper tea bags or whatever, and then filter it to Oregon and Washington, and then you're being shown local companies. So that's pretty cool too. Let's see. Okay, ingredients. So this might be some like skincare specific information. So I apologize if it doesn't exactly apply to you. Hopefully there's something you can take from it. And I could probably talk about it for a lot longer than the time. So for my ingredients, I either forage or grow almost all the plants that I can. Obviously a sustainable choice, but also pretty low cost too, if you're willing to put in the time. So that's kind of like my ideal sourcing for at least for the plants. And then if I can't grow it, or if it's out of season, or I can't find it for whatever reason, I can source it usually locally from a farm or a grower in like a dried option, which is what the great thing about living in the Pacific Northwest. Plants and farms are in abundance. So we're really fortunate for that. And when it comes to base ingredients, olive oil, shea butter, or even things like cetyl alcohol or glycerin, that sourcing becomes a little bit more of a balance between quality and affordability. People aren't out here growing glycerin in their backyard, but I do need those things. So I do my best to make sure that, I know exactly what it is, how it's made, where it's made, and then purchasing in the largest quantity that I can afford. And then I get a lot of questions about ingredients at the market from customers, which is great. And I've noticed that you kind of have to learn how to speak their language. One of the questions that I get really often is this natural, or is this all natural? Which I found is kind of a hard question to answer, because that can mean different things to different people. A lot of my products have a preservative in them called optiphen, and that's something that, we humans invented. It's made in a laboratory, and it doesn't come right off of a tree. So for some people, that might not be considered natural. They might want purely ingredients that are like actually also a plant, shea butter, olive oil, etc., which is completely valid. And then I can direct them towards the products that have the most quote unquote natural ingredients. For me, my opinion on that is really that it's invented by us, and it has a long, unfamiliar chemical name, does not necessarily mean that we need to avoid it. But the reason people are asking these questions is because there is a lot of sketchy ingredients out there. And compared to food, skincare is relatively unregulated. So a lot of those ingredients are carcinogenic or hormone disrupting or otherwise bad for you. So people are thinking about this, and they will ask about it. And I think it's up to us to kind of build that trust, right? Customers may not know exactly what ingredients are bad or why, or maybe they do. But if you're promoting your business as all natural or sustainable or eco-friendly, it's up to us to make sure that, not only that's truthful, because otherwise it's greenwashing, but then also to persuade them that you've got their back, right? We're thinking about these things, and we wouldn't offer something to them that goes against those ideals. And that trust, once it's built, is super, super valuable, because once you have it, they can then apply that trust to all of your products. The brand loyalty will kick in, and they will spend money on your products because they know that you can be trusted, right? It's so much easier for a shopper to see a brand and be like, oh yeah, that person, they care about health and quality. So that's a safe option for me and my family. That business has done the research. So now I don't have to, right? I don't have to Google, does my facial cleanser have a preservative made with formaldehyde? Like, they don't have to do all that information because they trust us to do it. I think that's important, especially at this market, and they will pay money for it. How much time do I have? Am I doing okay?
Yeah, we're at 7:30, but we have some time, and I think
Okay,
people are engaged, and it's a really interesting topic. So feel free
cool.
to take a couple more minutes, and then we can do some questions.
Okay, I have a couple more minutes. Um, I will say that for me, like in it, becoming a more sustainable business really comes from wanting to do that. And if you are doing it for environmental reasons, I think one of the biggest things we can do is go spend time in nature. Like, we live in such a beautiful place with accessible parks and rivers and lakes. And so, go hiking or look at the stars on the beach, figure out what kind of tree that is outside. Do whatever you need to do to stay inspired, because being a business owner can be so exhausting and so time consuming. And we find ourselves, on the computer all the time or trying to post on social media. And it's a lot easier and a lot more fun if we maintain that sense of like why we're doing it, right? And then just do whatever you can. I sometimes will feel guilty about like my spray bottles have plastic on them. But then if you've ever worked in like the service industry or the medical field, like your business, my business, the waste that we produce in like a year, when you compare it to like a restaurant or a hospital, that's what they create in like a week or a day. So we just have to do what we can. Yeah, I think I'll end it there. I got to most of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Macy.
Mhm.
Anyone have any questions?
Toxic-Free Cosmetics Act. Yes, that's a great one.
I don't know if you saw that. It doesn't cover everything, but it is crazy that we had to make a law to make sure people weren't putting lead in makeup.
Yes. Yeah, the skincare industry is definitely behind the food industry. And it's very confusing. There's so much jargon. There's so many little like chemicals that get remade or repatented and then they call it something else. And it can be very confusing. Uh, yeah. Yeah, Zach, if I find an alternative to those plastic droppers, I will let you know.
Macy, did you say shoppers could bring back their jars and you would refill them? Do you have a specific process for that? Or could they return their jars back to you? Do you reuse them?
I do. I don't have a super specific process right now. I'm curious to talk to Rebekah more about like how she makes that exchange. I don't have like a refill station in my booth. So what I've done in the past is mostly like customers will usually just email me or DM me ahead of time and be like, "Hey, I'm coming back. Can I like can I bring this to you, or can I, I'll usually give them a discount, or yeah, I'll take their jar back and then sanitize it and reuse it."
Mhm.
And it depends too on the product. I can't necessarily do it for every product. The like the lip balm containers, anything in paper or anything that, I don't know, sometimes they can be hard to sanitize. So I feel like I kind of need to find a way to communicate, okay, this is something that I will take back, or it has to be under this condition. So
Great. Any more questions with Macy or for Macy? No? Okay, well, I will just close out with some a little bit of information on some things that we have upcoming. So our next small business social hour will be an in-person gathering on September 13th at the Slocum House, so our office right next to the market from 3:45 to 5:15. It's going to be on pricing and wholesale, which is another very highly requested topic. Charlene from Panache Consulting will be coming back. She's taught a couple of our other workshops, and this workshop will be really, really hands-on. And you'll have some like one-on-one sort of like coaching time with her and time to interact and talk with other businesses. So it'll be really exciting and hopefully very helpful. Snacks and drinks will be provided. And then our next online workshop will be in October. And it'll be all about holiday market ready, so getting ready for the holiday season. And then we do still have some continuing education scholarships available to businesses. So please take advantage of that if you haven't already. You can get up to $1,000 per year. And then a couple other resources to share. Our Market Ready program for August just started, but we will be doing another one in spring, and we'll announce that date shortly. You can get up to $500 for completing the course through Business Impact Northwest. And then Business Impact Northwest also has one-on-one business coaching available. And you can get up to $300 in rent credits for completion of at least 3 one-on-one sessions. And I believe there's still some spots left for this year, so please take advantage of that. You can sign up at that link, and we'll send out the slides after so you can have access to that. And then the Greater Vancouver Chamber Business Pod program is also a really another really great resource for workshops, individual coaching, and business consultation. So, yeah, thank you all so much for attending. It was really, really engaging and great to hear from all of you. And it's one of the things that I think makes this community so special is being able to learn from each other. So, appreciate you all being here and hope you have a good rest of your night.